The view from my office window still catches me off guard sometimes. Brick-lined streets, newly painted shop fronts, children darting toward the ice cream parlor. It's the same main street where I once sat on a cracked curb, hiding my tears because someone said this town was a dying place. Now, the brass plaque outside reads, Office of Mayor Sarah Mitchell. I smooth the sleeve of my navy blazer, the fabric softer than anything I used to own, and glance at the reflection in the glass. My hair is perfectly set, my lipstick carefully chosen, a woman who looks every inch in control. But my phone buzzes on the desk, dragging me back. It's an email link, subject line. Opinion piece, mocking Maplewood again? I don't even have to open it. I already know the tone. The smirks, the jabs, the same outsiders calling this place irrelevant. My hometown. A pulse of anger stirs beneath my composure. After all these years, after everything we've built, people still don't see. I lean back in my leather chair, hearing the faint echo of the town hall clock tower. I could ignore it. I could stay silent. But I know myself too well. Maplewood isn't just my hometown anymore. It's my responsibility, my promise, my victory. And this time, I won't let their laughter echo louder than our truth. I was 16 the first time I heard someone laugh about Maplewood. We were at a regional debate competition in Chicago, my first trip outside the state line. I'd worked for weeks on my speech, hands cramping as I rewrote note cards over and over. When my turn came, I walked onto the stage in a thrift store blazer that didn't quite fit, heart-thudding. I introduced myself proudly. Sarah Mitchell, representing Maplewood High School. The audience chuckled. Not at my words, but at the name. Someone in the back whispered, loud enough for me to hear. Where even is that? Sounds like a town from a bad sitcom. Another muttered, probably cows and cornfields. My throat tightened. I stumbled through the first paragraph, my hands shaking so badly the cards rattled. By the end, the judges smiled politely, but I'd already shrunk into myself. On the bus ride home, my best friend, Emily, tried to cheer me up, but I couldn't stop hearing their laughter. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass, staring at the blurred highway lights, and thought, maybe they're right. Maybe Maplewood is nothing. That night, when I got home, my grandmother, Margaret, was waiting up. She sat in her worn rocking chair, knitting a scarf the color of autumn leaves. Without a word, she set it across my shoulders. They don't know you, she said softly. And they don't know this town. Deep roots don't ask for permission to grow, Sarah. They just grow. And one day, people notice the shade they give. Her words sank deeper than she knew. That scarf became my armor in the years that followed, frayed at the edges now, but still carrying her warmth. The next morning at school, I walked down the hallway differently. Yes, people whispered. Yes, some smirked. But I held my head a little higher. I promised myself something that day. I would not run from Maplewood. I would not hide it. I would prove that the place they mocked could stand tall. And if no one else believed in it, if no one else believed in me, then I'd carry that burden alone. That was the night Sarah Mitchell stopped dreaming small. That was the night I chose the road that would lead me here. After that night, I carried my grandmother's scarf everywhere. When I filled out college applications, when I walked into interviews, when I sat up until 2 in the morning practicing speeches into the mirror, it was always draped across the back of my chair. I left Maplewood at 18 with a single suitcase and a scholarship that barely covered tuition. Chicago felt enormous, like the air itself moved faster. In lecture halls, students tossed around words I'd never heard before, names of books I'd never read. More than once, I felt the sting of being the small-town girl who doesn't get it. But I worked. Harder than anyone. I stayed late in the library, whispered definitions to myself, studied political science until the words blurred. Some nights, I cried quietly in the dorm bathroom, the scarf pulled tight around my shoulders. But every morning, I got up again. My first real mentor was Professor Linda Harris, a sharp-eyed woman with silver hair and a reputation for dismantling anyone who came unprepared. During office hours, she glanced at my essay and said, "You've got fight in your writing." but you're burying it under apologies. Stop apologizing. Start leading. Her words hit me like a match to dry paper. For the first time, someone outside of Maplewood believed I had the strength to lead. Of course, belief didn't erase struggle. I juggled 3 part-time jobs: waitressing, tutoring, even scrubbing floors in the student center. My hands cracked from the cleaning chemicals, my legs ached from carrying trays. Still, I saved every dollar because someday I knew I'd need more than passion. I'd need resources to make change. The first taste of victory came junior year. I ran for president of the Student Political Association. Everyone laughed at my campaign flyers, homemade, printed on the cheapest paper I could afford. My opponent came from a wealthy Chicago family. His posters were glossy, his words polished. But when I spoke about fairness, about small towns forgotten by politicians, students listened. Against every prediction, I won. It was just a student election, but I felt the ground shift beneath me. People could believe in me if I gave them something real to believe in. After graduation, I took a job at a community outreach nonprofit. Long hours, low pay, but I learned what it meant to fight bureaucracy, to sit in drafty gyms with families who felt invisible. And slowly, projects succeeded. A neighborhood park reopened, a clinic received funding, an after-school program found volunteers. Each win was small, but each one whispered, "You can do more." Back home in Maplewood, no one really knew. I'd visit for Thanksgiving, nodding politely when old classmates asked if I was still chasing city dreams. I didn't correct them. I let them underestimate me. It was easier that way, because deep down, I was saving my fire for something bigger. Not just a job, not just a cause, but a future where Maplewood would never again be the punchline of a joke. I wasn't ready to tell them yet, but I was building, brick by brick, quietly, steadily. And when the time came, they would see. The day of the ribbon-cutting ceremony, Maplewood buzzed with an energy I hadn't seen since childhood fairs. Families lined the sidewalks, children waved paper flags, the scent of kettle corn drifted from a vendor on Main Street. For the first time in decades, the old textile mill had been transformed into a vibrant community center, a place for classes, job training, even art exhibits. I stood inside the newly renovated hall, the sunlight pouring through tall glass windows, and smoothed my blazer. On the walls hung photographs of Maplewood's past, farmers in muddy boots, the marching band from the 1960s, women at sewing machines in the mill. Next to them, new photos, kids painting murals, local entrepreneurs cutting ribbons in front of their shops, a town rising again. That's when I saw them, 3 former classmates from Chicago, the same ones who'd once laughed when I introduced myself at that debate. They were reporters now, pens and cameras in hand, sent to cover the revitalization of a forgotten rural town. Forgotten. The words still tasted bitter. One of them, Ryan, glanced around the hall, his expression caught between surprise and confusion. "I'll admit," he said, his voice carrying a hint of the old condescension, "this place looks different. Better than cows and cornfields?" I asked, my tone steady but edged. His face flushed. Another, Jessica, shifted uncomfortably. "So you actually stayed here?" she asked. I let a small smile curve my lips. I didn't just stay. I came back. Their eyes flicked to the podium at the front of the hall where the brass nameplate gleamed under the lights. Mayor Sarah Mitchell. For a heartbeat, silence stretched between us, their disbelief hanging heavy in the air. "Yes," I said, breaking it. "The same town you mocked. The same girl you dismissed. I'm her. And this," I gestured to the bustling crowd beyond the glass doors. "This is Maplewood." They blinked, speechless. For once, their pens didn't move, their mouths couldn't form clever remarks. The ceremony began. I walked to the podium, heels clicking against the polished floor. The applause rose, echoing off the rafters, filling the space where laughter used to echo in my memory. I rested my hands on the lectern and let my gaze sweep across the crowd. Townspeople, children, workers, even those skeptical classmates still frozen near the back. "Years ago, I began, my voice steady but alive with emotion. Maplewood was called a place that time forgot. Some even laughed when they heard our name. But today, they can laugh no more. Because we are here. We are thriving. We are proud. The words rolled out of me, not as rehearsed lines, but as truth born from every scar, every late night, every whispered insult I'd turned into fuel. I caught Ryan's eyes again, wide, humbled. And let me be clear, I said, my tone firm now, commanding, this town is not just my hometown. It is my heart, my fight, and my victory. And as long as I am mayor, no one will ever call Maplewood forgotten again. Thunderous applause shook the hall. The scissors cut through the ribbon, red fabric fluttering to the ground as children cheered. Music started, people poured into the new center, and life rushed through the building like sunlight through open windows. My classmates lingered near the door, still stunned. For once, I didn't need their words. Their silence was its own apology. I stood tall, my grandmother's scarf tucked inside my blazer pocket, and breathed in the sound of my people celebrating. For the first time in years, the laughter in the air wasn't mocking. It was ours. The celebration spilled out onto Main Street, laughter rising like music. But I noticed Ryan, Jessica, and Mark, my former classmates, hanging back near the edge of the crowd. Their cameras hung awkwardly at their sides, their polished confidence cracked. A few hours later, they requested an interview. I agreed, but on my terms, inside my office, the mayor's office. When they entered, their eyes darted around the room. The oak desk polished to a shine, shelves lined with books on policy and community planning, framed photos of Maplewood's people smiling with pride. On the wall, a map of the town marked with colorful pins, each representing a completed project. Jessica broke the silence first. Sarah, Mayor Mitchell, she corrected, voice uncertain. We've underestimated you. This isn't the Maplewood we remembered. I folded my hands on the desk, the faint scent of coffee rising from the mug beside me.
No, it's not.
Because I refuse to let it stay that way. Ryan cleared his throat. We'd like to do a feature story. National coverage. Highlighting the transformation here. With your blessing, of course. There it was. The same people who once mocked me, now asking for permission. The shift in power was almost palpable. I let the silence stretch, savoring it, not out of spite, but to weigh my words. Finally, I leaned forward. I'll agree, but only under conditions. Their pens hovered, waiting. Condition 1, I said firmly. Respect this place. No more cheap jokes, no more headlines that reduce us to a punchline. If you write about Maplewood, you write with truth and with dignity. They nodded quickly. Condition 2, you don't just write. You invest. Partner with our local entrepreneurs, sponsor youth programs, fund internships for kids who want to see the world but still call this town home. Mark blinked. That's unusual for media partnerships. It's non-negotiable, I replied. I could feel my grandmother's words echoing inside me. Deep roots don't ask for permission to grow. Condition 3, I continued, my tone softening. You examine yourselves. Ask why mocking a town of hardworking families ever felt entertaining in the first place. Growth isn't just for communities, it's for people, too. For the first time, their pens lowered. They looked at me not as a headline, not as the girl from the debate stage, but as a woman who had built something they couldn't ignore. Jessica's eyes glistened. You're right. We were cruel. Immature. I don't think I ever realized the weight of those words until now. I allowed myself a small smile. Then maybe you're ready to grow, too. The air in the office shifted. No bitterness, no revenge, just clarity. I wasn't here to humiliate them. I was here to lead. When they finally left, I stood by the window, looking out at the town square. Children ran beneath the new streetlights. Shop owners chatted on their porches. The bell tower chimed the hour. Maplewood was alive. And I was its guardian. The power had shifted, not because I sought vengeance, but because I demanded respect. And for the first time, they gave it. Weeks passed after the ceremony, and Maplewood began to glow in a way I had only ever dreamed of. The community center bustled with life. Teenagers taking coding classes, mothers gathering for workshops, retired veterans teaching woodworking to kids. The once empty mill had become the heartbeat of the town. The national feature ran, but this time the headlines read differently. Maplewood's Revival, a small town with a big future. For the first time in my life, I didn't wince when I saw the name of my hometown in print. I smiled. What surprised me most wasn't the outsiders' change, but my own people. Neighbors who once muttered about how nothing would ever change here now spoke with pride. Shopkeepers decorated their windows with local history, children painted murals of the town's future, and folks who had moved away began visiting with curiosity instead of pity. One evening, I walked alone through the town square. The air was cool, carrying the smell of fresh bread from the bakery. The clock tower struck 7, its chime rolling across the rooftops. I slipped my hand into my blazer pocket and touched the edge of my grandmother's scarf, still frayed, still carrying her warmth. Her words came back like a whisper. Deep roots don't ask for permission to grow. She had been right. Maplewood's roots were deep. And so were mine. I thought about the girl I once was, the teenager who stumbled through her speech, trembling as strangers laughed. If she could see me now, standing in the center of the town she once wanted to escape, she wouldn't recognize herself. But maybe she'd recognize the fire. I turned toward the lights of Main Street, watching the people I loved most build their lives with new hope. It wasn't just about me anymore, it never had been. This was about every person who had been told they were too small, too simple, too forgotten. I had carried their weight, and now we were standing tall together. Taking a deep breath, I looked up at the night sky. The stars scattered like promises waiting to be kept. My voice was quiet, but it felt like it reached every corner of Maplewood. They mocked my hometown, I whispered, a smile tugging at my lips. But now they call me Madam Mayor.